I wonder if maybe we should talk about social media because it makes sense to talk about that here.
Yeah. If we are to just focus on the positive, okay, of social media, which is extremely difficult for me because my whole perception of it has been the exact opposite since I first heard of any of these platforms. I was one of the latest bloomers you probably ever met simply because I didn't have a desire. And when I was able to access these things at a certain point in my life, I was already so far past the jump off point everybody was so into. I felt like I needed to play catch up. I don't know if it was my ego or my insecurities or whatever. I just didn't want to have to play that game. And then as, I don't know, let me try to elaborate just so it makes sense. So I got in trouble. I had to deal with that. And when I finished dealing with that and I was back, things had changed. And before I was very prideful, and I was extremely proud of the whole Clark Kent Superman identity thing and not being seen, known, all those things. And I took great pride in people having to take their time to go scout for the spots that they heard of, someone talked about. And like the whole idea of being able to just see it in your pocket instantly drove me fucking crazy,
I can see that.
And the whole idea of people running their mouths under some false identity drove me crazy. And that was the introduction I had to social media at first. So I was so turned off.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about all these positive things, right? And I don't want to go too deep into the dark, but now I see all these bullet points of positivity that you might want to kick off yourself here.
I don't want to say that I've always looked at it as a positive because I'm sure I haven't. I think I'm kind of so detached from looking at the negativity. Of course, like I see it, but I choose to look at social media as a tool. And I did an interview, I think it was probably like 1999 or somewhere around there, 2000. Okay. On Gorilla One, Gorilla One.
Sure.
I think one of the questions was like, is the internet a form of getting up? And that wasn't really like a social media era, but there was like websites that you can get your work on. And and my answer was something like, hell no, it's not a way of getting up. And I still feel that way. It's not a way of getting up. Like getting up means, hitting the streets, putting in work. Yeah. Sure. So, but the way I look at social media now is very much a tool. It's a tool to share your work, obviously all that kind of stuff. I look at it really analytically. So like there's all that with the data and all that kind of stuff. But as far as like a tool and like a learning tool, it's a tool of sharing your stuff. It's a tool of building business. So there's a lot of positive things that happen under there. It's hard to avoid looking at the negativity on social media. But to me, it's just like, everybody, you just focus on your own path,
Yeah.
If you're sitting there getting all worried about how other people are using it, then of course it's going to be a negative thing.
Yeah.
But if you use it as a tool, for positive shit, building your business, meeting people, I can't even tell you how many people that I've met through social media. Like this place, nobody would fucking know about it except for like a 1 mile radius of this place if it wasn't for social media. Yeah. So, those are really obvious positive things,
Yeah. Because there's writers today that hit abandoned spots in places that we would never see if it wasn't for their picture and posting it. They're fucking amazing. And they get me hype as fuck first thing in the morning. Like, damn,
I think of
he
one
fucking
person
did that.
for sure.
Absolutely.
I know you're talking
and
about.
he fucking just does it. And he's consistent, and he motivates me more than a lot of writers that are, whatever. I have to go out and see myself, right? So there's definitely it's not black or white. It's a very individualized experience. It depends on, I guess, just how it's displayed.
I used to think about spots like that when
Yeah.
I was younger,
Yeah.
and I was like, maybe nobody will see it, but maybe somebody will.
Right.
Like before social media. Did you ever go like fucking climbing through the sewer, not sewers, but like the runoffs?
Yes.
Where you go deep in there where like nobody's it
Fucking
seems
Ninja
like
Turtles wouldn't even
nobody's-
follow me down there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you do a throwy in there and you're
Yes.
like, wouldn't that be dope if somebody like
Yeah.
stumbled upon this?
Of course.
Thing, So now, yeah, I mean, a lot of people see it on social media, but like somebody may be fucking just hiking and see some fucking 12-foot letters that guy did.
And there's some of the pioneers that we know very well from our city that were fucking the extreme sport fucking pioneers that are doing things like that now.
Yeah.
Members of that crew. And I fucking love it. And that,
Yeah,
to
that
me,
shit's
that's
awesome.
going to be like the new, the carvings and like, the shit that at some
It's there.
point in the future, when people are living underground more than they are now, like people, God damn, you see that shit from 2020?
Yeah.
That shit was fucking fresh.
Well, what's so cool about that is like that stuff's gonna run.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
Like,
it's running.
and people are, if he found it, other people are gonna find it.
Yeah.
There's this whole like urban, what do you call it? Urban exploration
Sure.
or some shit.
Oh yeah. Which is becoming more popular again
Yeah.
because of social media.
So that
Which,
shit,
you
yeah,
know.
people are gonna see it,
Yeah.
like in person.
Yeah.
And I can't think of very many cooler looking flicks than a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just this crazy fucking
Yeah.
rusty ass fucking
Absolutely.
abandoned shit. And then
Yeah.
it's just like a crazy
Right.
masterpiece. You see like some of that stuff in Europe too, like
Right.
these, I don't even know if it's Europe, but there's like some people that are doing those like 3D shits that are like, looks like a spider is like actually
Oh yeah.
coming out
Using
of
the
a
corner of the wall and like
Yeah.
really using the dimension.
Yeah, and those are a lot of times
Fucking
they're
amazing.
abandoned.
Yeah. And the first time I feel like I've ever experienced that was the jealousy I had over not being raised in that era of Frisco in the early, early 90s, when I was just young and walking through there, like, God damn, these decrepit and fucked up old style buildings and bricks and like fucking pieces never look so beautiful than on the most fucked up surfaces.
Yeah.
And I've always been so turned on by that ever since. And then seeing Detroit later on by some of your boys and how they did out there, fucking beautiful. And like, yeah, I feel like the grimier of a surface, just the more beautiful, like some masterpieces pop. Like these other dudes that are doing these, full fucking, like you said, like giant tarantula or whatever coming at you in the corner with the piece in the web and like, just way out, just taking shit to another place,
Well, so like that's kind of like an interesting thing to think about because as cool as that stuff is and as cool as the flick is, like you wouldn't see any of it if it wasn't for social media.
That's right.
Like, did you ever mail flicks? Like, did you have like a pen pal?
No, unfortunately I didn't because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I
know?
had,
Yeah.
actually Roger Gassman, who we're going to talk to. He was like one of the actually the first person that I ever did that with.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Maybe I should save the story for when
Yeah.
we actually talk to him. But
that's very
he and I
cool.
traded flicks for years.
Wow.
Yeah, for a long time. Like he would send me stuff from the East Coast or Maryland area, DC, and I would send him stuff from here, Motor
Wow.
Yard, Venice. In the early, not early, but
Yeah.
90s, mid 90s, early 90s,
No kidding.
and so that was kind of like a form of social media,
Right.
just an analog version.
Yeah.
And so you got to get exposed to all kinds of stuff that was an eye-opening experience because like you kind of saw, you were like, fuck, the tags look different. Like that looks like a tag that you wouldn't see in
the West Coast.
LA.
Yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't see people writing like that or
Yeah.
the letters. And
Right.
even though we had magazines, it's like different when you get
Oh yeah.
an envelope and there's flicks and
Yeah.
like there's a letter in there, like a throwy on
Yes.
it, like I still have.
Got that
I sent
East
him
Coast flair on it.
I
Yeah.
sent him a picture. I was like, look what I just found. It was like
Wow.
an intact package that he sent me, with the
kidding.
letter and all that shit. So, I mean, that stuff's cool. I mean,
That's
I
very
would never
cool.
do that again. Like
get
print out fucking
Right.
photos and shit. But
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that's like a lost art.
it is. But I mean, it's like,
but we have this new.
It's a whole different thing now. So like you have, how many people would you have to trade for to see some fucking crazy Brazilian fucking rider doing all kinds of nutty shit or, you know,
and that's great point that you just made. And that's that you had a partner in here recently for the last show, and we started talking about his next adventure, his next trip. And I mean, first of all, the dudes that he's going with, they probably connected somehow through the wires, you know, social media. But then where they were going, I don't know if it was Brazil or one of those places, or just a young kid that started following them fucking last month. Like, yo, come to my city. I'll show you guys around. I'll show you all the spots.
Yeah.
And those kind of connections, like, fuck it. Let's just fly to, you know, wherever. And you got a tour guide, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's been like that for a long time. People know people on different coasts and across seas and all that, but this is on a whole nother trip.
Yeah. I was thinking about that not too long ago. I was like, I want to do one of those tours. You see people like, oh, we're going to fucking go and do a little, because I've done tours at, you know, in like hardcore bands and punk bands in the 90s and stuff. And it was like that. Like you didn't rent hotels and shit like that. You were like, all right, we're going to play in fucking some fucking cornfield in Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas. Like this literally happened. And we're going to stay at the guy's house and eat fucking spaghetti with his parents and shit, you know?
Sleep on a haystack.
Yeah. It was
fucking punk rock.
It was pretty awesome. And then,
that's fresh.
I don't know if that's super accurate, but
yeah,
spaghetti was eaten with parents. I don't know if it was in Lawrence, Kansas or not. But the point is, I recently thought, I was like, I would like to do like a tour, like just jump in the van with my dogs and fucking just go somewhere and just hit a bunch of spots on the way.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me, I was like, fuck, I could just put out a shit on social media and be like, hey, I'm going to be in fucking Tucson on this day.
Yes.
Granted, I already know people I could hit up, but if I didn't, like I could put that out on social media, and more than likely you would be able to, let's say I was going to drive from here to fucking Jersey or whatever, over the course of 2 weeks. You could probably line up spots to paint all the way there.
Guaranteed.
Just from social media, putting that out there.
Put that out there, exactly. No matter what.
So we should do that.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful idea. I couldn't agree more. It's such a great way to plant the seed and cultivate those new relationships along the road too.
Yeah.
Myself and one of the most beautiful people I know did that recently. We drove up to Vancouver, and even without doing that, just experiencing all the different, you know, all the different small towns, all the different cities, the yards, the whatever. But I couldn't even imagine if we had made contacts by preparing. I guess because we were planning to not do all legal activities the whole way up and to promote and to paint. Yeah. That we weren't trying to, you know, let it be known first, obviously. But if you're going to go about it in a certain way with however you go about it, just doing it right.
Yeah, it wouldn't apply if you're going to go on a fucking rampage.
Well, of course not.
Put it. No, but if you were like, hey, I just want to line up some chill spots.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah,
sure. If you're going to go smash a bunch of cities, just don't even say anything about that shit.
Of course. But that's what's good about having the private messaging, right? You can just shoot numbers and then go from there.
Yeah, that's
Yo,
true.
What city you in? All right. Yeah. Hit me up. Let's do it.
You'll see me.
Yeah, you'll see me. I'll be there in a couple of days.
Oh, man, I wish I wasn't.
Is it raining? I'll be right there. Yeah, I know. Fucking beautiful. So there's another amazing point to social media. You know, like you said, and being able to follow those new friends and family members and create new business ventures and networking on a whole nother plane, right? And developing your career and furthering your reach on everything. It's beautiful, you know. Not to mention what you take with you, meaning going back to giving a fuck. being the type of artist, writer that truly gives a shit about what he's doing and his community and what he's showing the next guy or girl, how he's lifting up the people around him. And going back to one of the people you like to listen to and watch, that Gary Vee, walking the walk, being about what you say you're about, and taking that with you on the road, you know, like cleaning up the streets, for an example, Cuts Crew, and wanting to join communities and make a difference and clean up and show these younger generations that all this fun can be had without joining a destructive group or getting fucking loaded, drugs, alcohol, all these different things. You can excel and surpass your fucking wildest dreams without any of that stuff, and clean up the path as you're moving, like, you know, making it better as you move through, right? But yeah, taking that with you on the road, and then each different person you meet as you go, you're instilling those values and showing them what you're doing back in LA, San Pedro, wherever you're at, and and then what they can do on their platform after you've left, and how they can, you know, that fire can spread in a positive way as well.
Yeah, when we started doing the Cuts Crew stuff, I had this kind of this sort of concept, and I actually kind of mapped this out just to kind of get an idea of what it would look like. Mm-hmm. And I kind of thought of the murals that we did as, like, I call them beacons of good vibes, right? So nice. Like, if you have this like little beacon, right? But so what I did was I downloaded a huge satellite image of San Pedro, and then in my 3D program that I use for work, I put lights where all of our murals were. Mm-hmm. And so I think we had like 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, each one of these things, it emits like a light of, mm-hmm. of good vibes, right? So like, let's say somebody's driving and they're kind of pissed off or whatever, and then they see this. San Pedro has this like town pride thing. You know? I mean, like a lot of towns do, mm-hmm. but San Pedro seems like a little bit. There's a little more pride than I'm used to. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, like, let's say you have somebody that's really prideful of San Pedro, and they see like a lot of shitty stuff that pisses them off, but then they drive by this mural that's got all these like fucking flowers and vines, and it says clean up the streets, and it resonates with them. Yeah. So like this beacon of good vibes, like it emits like everybody that passes it. So like as you pass by, I saw a commercial about this where like this guy was helping an old lady across the street, mm-hmm. and all these cars were driving by. So this guy gets out and he helps the old lady, and then this kid sees him. I'm probably getting it wrong, but this kid sees it, and then he sees this lady drops some groceries, and he helps, and someone sees that, and it kind of spreads. So mm-hmm. like, not so much about our shit, but like just positive shit in general. If you look at it, it's kind of like a beacon of good vibes. Like, mm-hmm. you know, it like you said, it spreads. So like everybody that interacts with that, or not everybody, obviously some people are like, fuck that shit. Right. You know? But the people that will resonate with what it is that they saw, they'll hopefully go on and do something. Mm-hmm. And someone else it'll resonate with, and they'll go on and do something. Definitely. So bringing it back to giving a fuck and back to social media, mm-hmm. like when you're talking about all this reach and all this shit that you can see, like what better way to kind of put those beacons out there? Right. Because if you plant something, you could get 20,000 people seeing that shit or more. Yeah. You know? Absolutely. And so it's definitely, that kind of also goes back to it being a tool. I mean, it's a tool that you can use to spread a positive message. And that's what Gary Vee is doing. Mm-hmm. You know, he's literally saying, like, let's be more fucking positive, like saying literally that stuff. And other people are too. Like, motivational people like Tony Robbins and fucking Andy Frisella. There's like a lot of different people you can look up and you can see. You may not agree with everything these people say, but like they are out there trying to spread positivity.
Tony Robbins, man, he's been going strong for a fucking minute.
He's a little bit much.
I bet he popped out of the womb with a positive message. That's
that guy's
amazing.
fucking hardcore.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, I don't really follow him.
No,
too much,
I get it though.
But I mean, he's really good at what he does.
Absolutely.
So bringing it back to like what we do, and it's kind of a weird, I guess dichotomy is a good word, because it's like this contrasting. It's like we're promoting one thing and we're also promoting another thing. So your graffiti can be seen as negative to a lot of people and positive to some people. Like I personally, I don't say this to a lot of the non-graffiti writers that come into my shop, but I fucking love what that shit looks like when something is smashed. Like, even if it's not even good graffiti, like if it's just scribbly, fucking ugly ass 1,000 layers of tags, I fucking like that shit. Like, I don't care if it's good or not.
I get it.
But I totally see why regular people probably don't.
Right.
There are a lot of regular people that are starting to see that. There was actually this artist that used to come here, and she was like, "Oh man, I used to hate graffiti. I used to post on Facebook about it and all that stuff." And then I started coming here, and I gained an appreciation for it. And like even that, I like that. And it was really what I was talking about, like how this thing just gets demolished with tags, and like not all good tags, and people writing over each other, and it gets all messy.
Yeah.
She loved how that looked. Yeah. Whereas she used to hate how that looked.
No kidding.
So
I can relate to her in that sense. And you, like, when I first stare at that, and the way I've always been, I just overanalyze everything. First of all, it's a serious problem that I'm working on. But like, I will pick shit apart so quick. So at first I'm just like, oh my God, dude, like, who's that? Where the fuck is that crew from? And what kind of marker did he use for that? And how was he even holding that thing? And I started going there first. Really? It's fucking ridiculous. But the more I stare at it, and the more I like think about where this started for this person, or what that person is going through at this moment, and then I start like looking at it in a kind of more interesting, overanalyzing situation. But yeah, that's just I've always had an issue with being too clean and things being clean too, which has worked as a disadvantage to me as well. But now I can appreciate the scene more, depending on where it is. I have to admit though, I still have a hard time with it. I just saw some stuff down the street driving through San Pedro not too long ago, and I was just, I almost wanted to get out and buff the dumpster myself, just because I was going to see it. I was going to take a nap in my ride, and I knew I'd see it when I got up. Oh, yeah. I wanted it to be gone. Yeah. But that's just the nutball inside of me.
No, but I mean, that's the thing. That's like, that kind of graffiti is not for everybody. And like, I just personally think it looks cool.
I get it. I can respect that.
I would rather see a bunch of like dope throwies and then like, those walls that just have like everything. There's like tags and bubbles and straight letters. Sure. And somebody fucking rocks a piece there, and like all of it is like those buildings that they fucking end up painting all the windows and shit. That one that was in downtown for so long. Like I like all that stuff, but I also do see like, it looks like blight to a lot of people too. Mm-hmm. So how do we tie that back? I mean, I guess we can rein it in.
Off of what we just ended with was how we perceive the display of art, graffiti on things, right? And I think there's always like a positive way to take from anything. And I think it's all motivating, because like somebody like you see some beauty in that, and that shit's badass, and it might inspire a way that you do your next cuts or your next fill or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the same thing. Sometimes it's what we don't like that leads us closer towards what we do. The non-negotiables, the things like, I definitely ain't gonna, so I'm gonna this.
Right.
And that's positive. So even with social media, like when I go through and I scan through I'm looking at something that's fucking amazing, beautiful. All right, that just gave me an idea. Even if it's just that color scheme, I'm gonna work with that and then put my own flair on it. Or it's something that's just, oh God, how and why would he do that on that? Fuck it. And then it makes me want to find a spot like that and do it my way. And so it's like nobody's ever wrong. No message is ever wrong. Nothing we say here is ever wrong. Somebody might have something to add to it in their way that gives it that balance. There's got to be balance to everything, right? And I think there's like a high value to however we perceive any of these things. And that's the thing about social media we can like kind of go back into is there's value in all that we see within that, right?
Yeah.
Nothing should be discounted. I think there's always going to be a lesson. It's like when we hear our own whatever, or we see our own set from last weekend or 10 years ago, we're constantly learning and growing from that and picking something from that to move forward and do something else. The second we're satisfied 100% with what we've done is when you hit a fucking wall. I never want to feel that way.
Dude, that's such a good point. Cause like, if you stop growing, like you see people all the time, like it's sort of baffling. Like when you see people that just don't grow,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of, I mean, I guess like there's two sides to that. Like I'm somewhat envious of those people because a lot of times it seems like their lives are pretty straightforward, you know, like
Consistent.
they work a job and then when they go home, they're done. Like when you're on this kind of like growth mindset in terms of like always learning, always developing.
Yeah.
You're never done. Like there's
Yeah.
always something you could be doing. Fuck. I don't even know where I was going with that.
In the sense of,
Oh, like seeing things and
Yeah.
getting inspired by different
Yeah.
things that you see. Like I totally do that too. And that's definitely a huge positive
yeah.
of social media. But I often wonder on the flip side, like not so much a negative, but I wonder if like as humans, are we meant to have this much access? Like that's one thing that makes me nervous. It's so new to have this much information, you know, like I don't know how long humans have been around, like millions of years or some shit.
Long time.
We did not have this much fucking access to shit up until like yesterday. Like if you look at the timeline of humans, imagine even before fucking radio and TV, like you just knew what the fuck was right there.
Yeah.
Or if you got in a stagecoach
Right.
and bailed across the wherever, you see shit on your way.
Yeah.
So now any fucking question you have, you can pull out your phone
Right.
and most likely get an answer.
Yeah.
I often wonder like if we're even meant to be able to have that kind of access.
Or if it's going to be like overload at some point. It's just,
I don't know.
It's going to work against us in a way.
We seem to be doing okay with it.
Yeah.
It's like super normal now. But it's just, it's a little bit crazy.
It is
when you really
crazy.
think about it. And so if you like I could go on about that
Yeah.
and it'll take us really far away from graffiti. But like if I rein it back in,
Yeah.
I wonder if that applies also to like having access to so many different styles. Like for me, I found myself looking at a lot of stuff. And I guess until somewhat recently, like I made this decision, this conscious decision that I said, I'm only going to do the kind of stuff that's fun for me. Because like so often I found myself painting, trying to live up to certain standards, you know, like people in my crew or people that I see on the internet, and I see like, oh, this is a popular way to do highlights now, but I'm still doing them the same way as I did in the 90s. Like, and I would look at my shit in a negative light because I'm not doing them this fancy Astro Fat Cat fucking highlight thing or whatever that I don't feel like I'm capable of doing, or I haven't you know, taken the time to develop those skills to be able to do it.
Right.
So I'm like intimidated by it. And it just clicked for me one day where I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to have a fucking good time. Like,
Yeah.
it's stupid to like try to do things that I feel like I'm supposed to do. And I feel like most of my graph career was doing that kind of stuff. Like I was doing things that I felt like I was going in directions that I felt like I was supposed to go. to a certain extent. Like the sort of progression for a lot of people is like, you know, you start off as a tagger, and then you do a throwy, and then you learn straight letters, and then you do simple pieces, and then you learn wild style. And I never had a desire to transition into wild style, so I always felt like behind a lot of my peers, because like I would do just like a simple, you know, thing that I liked. I liked people walking into the yard and being able to read.
Yeah.
That says bus.
Big, bold, basic.
That's what I liked.
They know bus from before they just got out of their car and they can see it across the grass or wherever you're at. Yeah.
But then you'd be next to somebody. I'd be done in like an hour and a half, and then I'd be painting with somebody doing this fucking elaborate masterpiece, fucking aggressive, you know, fucking thing. Sure. And I felt inferior. And like in some ways, maybe, I don't know. I guess I don't want to go down that route, but
I get it.
I made the decision of doing what's fun, and that's how I paint now. So like, you're always going to be, and I'll rein this back into what we were actually talking about, but like, you're always going to be kind of like judging yourself. And I think that's part of the growth process of like developing and all that stuff. But like back to what I was actually talking about, I kind of flew off track, but this sort of access to information, part of me is like, maybe it's too much. So when I'm scrolling through, I'm like, I don't know if this is the right thing for my human brain to be able to see all these different styles and all these different levels of cane control and all this kind of like shit that I want to be able to do. Like, oh, I wish I had taken time to develop these skills and doing all these characters, because I'll see a character that's so dope and it looks like it was so much fun to paint. Yeah. But then like next page, you see like a black and white stock tip throwy that looks just so fucking rad. It's like, oh, I want to do that. Yeah. It's like your brain's is like going back and forth. So I have some concerns in the access.
Valid too. Know. Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because definitely the overabundance of visuals and information can force someone to take steps back, in a sense, like they can freeze up. Like for me, for this artist, for this writer, like not being able to focus on what's in front of you, and like at that moment, the book in front of you, one Sharpie, one pencil, one book in front of you, and just zone in on it, right? And be so distracted. And I can go off on like, again, we want to keep this positive, but people spending, I know plenty of people who spend 4 hours a day in their phone scrolling through other people's pieces, and maybe half an hour doing their own. Right. Maybe. Yeah. Most likely not. Most of the time is spent looking outside, right? And again, there's good things about it. There's this, there's that. Okay, cool. But I guess as someone who's got a healthy appetite for this world that and has since the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever it is, there's always going to be something else, like you said, around you that's maybe intimidating, maybe intriguing, but either way, it's somehow helping us evolve and grow and like aspire to be or whatever. But I think there's something beautiful and simple. Simplicity is beautiful, and having pride in your own work and self-worth, right? And, you know, again, I think, I know we mentioned this in the last, and I could be going all over the place, but I think I can bring it back. I believe that there's a process, absolutely, from where we start and how we evolve and kind of find our niche, right? And there's always going to be someone you look up to. Bro, your letters, specifically mid-90s Venice, are the pieces I looked at where to this day, the last freight that I tackled and the way that I do my borders and my whatever flying off of it was inspired by you.
Oh, really?
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's beautiful. And it's amazing how those things stay in your brain, like staring at the sun for too long, and you look away and you still see the sun for like 5 minutes. You know, it's like in your head. But some of those things, are just fucking so beautiful. You can't deny it. You can't resist. And like, so what I'm saying is, yeah, we progress to a certain point where we kind of find our set, we find our whatever, but yeah, have fun with it. Do whatever we got to do. We might be inspired by a couple things here and there, but I think the go-to is always going to be beautiful. Like, even when I do the same set, I'm still evolving it somehow. There's always something to it that's changing somehow. You know, even in the past years, like, it was more about the spot itself and loving to kind of flex within that, whatever the wall shape was, or whatever the train was, or whatever I was going around respectfully, you know, and being able to flex the letters in that sense.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, going back again, man, I think having too much influence and steering away from like what's coming, again, once you found where you want to be with your structure and your set, your whatever, your tag, whatever, I think being able to appreciate what you do and feeling comfortable and having a good time. Bottom line, enjoy it. Like I said earlier, it's like, for me, it's fucking therapy. There's no better therapy and no better getting out of my head and really enjoying myself out in the sun, painting, being next to some people you respect and love and like chopping it up. You might not even talk for a fucking couple hours and you're just painting. You're just there with them, just there. And there's something so beautiful about just enjoying the process and not being so caught up in, is this going to look as good as that? Is that going to look as good as that? I had a great fucking time, whatever anybody thinks. This was an amazing day.
I think that's a really good point. And it's something that I've been seeing a lot, because like I've said a few times that I really get deep into analyzing social media and behavior. And I've noticed that this theme that keeps coming up is like, you're doing things that play to the likes or things like that. So like, what that means is people will only post shit that they feel is going to do well. So
right,
and you see that in all fucking types of social media.
I've done it as well.
Yeah,
I get it.
And I even fell into that trap too. So
Yeah.
like, I initially said, oh well, I'm just looking at it to see kind of like maybe if this post that I made or these letters that I did, if they get a lot of likes, maybe like the community at large sees something that maybe I didn't see that I need to explore. But then I get sucked in, you know, where it's just like you do something and you're like, I've posted something that looks like this before. And, you know, you don't really want to post it because, you know, you don't know if it's going to get a reaction. Then I have to snap out of it and be like, I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
Like why, you know, that.
What's the real reason I'm doing this anyway?
Yeah. It's kind of like, if I truly didn't care, I wouldn't post on social media at all. But obviously, like, there is part of me that does want to succeed on the platform, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm more motivated on building Machine Studio than I am like my own personal thing. But
yeah,
I go check in on it and I'm like, oh fuck, I better post something, you know, or post a sketch, or if I don't have time to paint or whatever. But back to the point was like, I think a lot of people, and I don't know how much this applies to graph because I haven't really, I'm part of different groups for, like I'm trying to learn TikTok. It's a weird platform. Like graph isn't really on there, but
yeah.
So I'm just trying to learn how that platform works. So I'm on part of a group on Facebook that they specifically talk about TikTok shit. And people are like, oh, I posted such and such on TikTok and it's not doing well. Or people are talking about getting shadow banned. There's all these like weird shit and it's all about that. And the group is somewhat, I think infuriating is not the best word, but like sometimes I'm like, I got to get the fuck off of this. Cause like,
but your intention is good in as far as learning the platform.
I want to understand the data. Like, because my TikTok presence is strictly not our. I mean, even though I'm the only one doing it,
I got you.
It's for bringing value. Like it's not about
your intentions are righteous. Yeah.
So I do have a bus TikTok, but I hardly ever post any shit on there at all. It's just sitting there pretty much.
Okay.
But the Machine Studio TikTok is about bringing value. It's showing, and I repost these on Instagram. They're all just videos of, little tips and tricks. Like, here's what this cap does. Here's how, here's how to do cutbacks, even though like a lot of people hate on cutbacks. I didn't even know.
I had no idea.
I just learned this like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, cutbacks are frowned upon. I fucking love me a cutback.
I fucking love a cutback.
Yeah, give me the
clean
cutbacks.
that shit up.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I don't give a fuck.
But what I'm learning on this group, and just by watching watching social media behavior, is like a lot of people are doing things just to get, and like I said, I don't know how this ties to graffiti, but like graffiti writers are humans, so all of these same behaviors have to exist in graffiti too. But like the shit that people are complaining about in this group, they're going like, oh, my account's not getting any traction, and like, what do I got to do? And then you'll click on their account. There's people that are simply posting a bunch of shit, hoping that something will go viral. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be some stupid dance trend. Yeah. And let me take the stupid part out. Like, if that's your thing, I'm not going to hate on it.
Dance on, partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forget I said stupid. It's cool if that's what you want to do. But they'll just replicate exactly something someone else did.
That went viral.
Hoping that they will go viral too. Right. And all I keep thinking is like, to what end? Like, is that the goal? To get 2 million views, 4 million views? Will you be happy when that happens on something that you didn't create? Like, you just replicated something.
Right.
So I know that was like a crazy, weird tangent that I went on.
It was, go ahead.
To bring that back, like, I wonder if that also, it has to, because like I said, graph writers are humans, and this is definitely a human trait. Yeah. To want to replicate things that they see that work. A lot of people are desperate to be famous. How many people are doing graph that they think they should be doing and not doing the graph that they want to be doing,
That's a good point.
Because of social media.
Yeah. And I don't know, some people's perspectives, like for many, many years, have been like these oppressed youth that are trying to express themselves because they're not being heard, and so they pick up a can and whatever. But now it's more, and I wrote a note down, the younger, maybe these particular individuals, besides trying to grab onto a piece of fame in any way they possibly can, which you see on like funny videos or talented this show, talent that show, and they just do these ridiculous displays that you know that there was nothing prepared. They just wanted to try to get in front of the camera, or they simply don't edit that because they were so fucking absurd. It's such good entertainment. But the social involvement as like a stepping stone, for people who do not have any social skills and are trying to just kind of nudge their way onto any kind of involvement with other people. Because this could be a kid who was homeschooled and parents don't let go out and play at all, and they just only has his backyard and this board and this can or whatever it is, and he's just trying to get involved. And the first time a young woman, a young man, explored self-expression, and they just want to seeing past like just the fame. I think the fame part is something that people have gotten so obsessed with and never, and as old as time, never truly understood all the things that come with it. Not that I fully understand it, but I understand the sickness of people trying to chase that thing that they're not even knowing what the fuck it's going to be like when they get there. Yeah. But it's interesting to, it's an obsession. It absolutely is it's definitely, it's like a sickness. It's like a toxic, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a toxic pattern, because there's going to be more and more of this happening as, let's say, that popular kid at that high school catches some serious traction over his whatever video, doing some crazy stunt or something, for example. And then all the kids that want to be as cool as him in school try these fucking stunts until someone breaks their fucking neck or whatever, but all in the pursuit of, however many likes or whatever. And again, I believe that You know, at some point we're going to cover like how this can kind of fall in the other direction, because I think it's really important for people to be aware of that. I think it's more important to be about the solution, like we talked about before, and like how we can take that and make it take something that's not as righteous, not as positive, and make it so. I know I'm kind of stirring around here, but essentially what I'm trying to say is, people are chasing something they're not even, I believe, in my opinion, they're not even quite sure what it is.
I wrote down Jim Carrey because like he's a perfect example of like achieving everything that he thought he wanted and then realizing it did not fulfill him, you know? I saw one guy post a video and he got like 24 million views. Mm-hmm. And then he couldn't maintain that because it was just something that happened. Mm-hmm. Like he happened to do this one thing and all of these people started liking it. And then you could see him just grasping at trying to get those views on more and more videos. Mm-hmm. I wish I had examples of how this ties to graffiti, but like, I'm sure, you know, it's this whole idea of like, it's not going to fulfill you, you know, this social media fame,
right,
or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So
I can give you an example from a personal experience for me. I'll try to cap it quick. When only now do I realize, as I was coming up, did I have a drive, motivation, and passion for this life? Absolutely. I've loved to climb as high as I could in the trees and like be like a little higher than the next kid in the park or whatever since I can fucking remember. I was always into heights and things like that. But as I grew in this scene, I was completely insecure and in complete fear of not fitting in and not being a part of, and all these fucking fears that I had inside of me, right? So I was going to the edge, literally, figuratively, to do things, to impress. Yes, to prove to myself. I always wanted to set my goals and my whatever higher. Like if whoever I looked up to, fame-wise, I wanted to feel whatever that must have felt like, and then some. But I almost killed myself. I could tell you a handful of times, we can get into at a later point, trying to just impress, and not even one person in particular, because when it was all said and done, I was kind of baffled by the things that I would do and how I would go about doing them, not thinking it all the way through, and how many times I could have killed myself over a fear of not being accepted and gaining that fame from, again, no one particular, just in general, something I was seeking that I didn't even know what it was at the end of that punch. It did not fulfill me the way that I thought it would. Was I satisfied with reaching my goal and like proving to myself that I could do that? Yeah, that was satisfying. The person that I looked up to before that did something that I thought would be impossible, and then being able to do that was satisfying. But it was nothing ever past that. It definitely did not fulfill the fear that I had inside of me, or like wanting to fit in or be a part of this or be a part of that. That is only now being fulfilled in other ways of getting to know who I really am, right?
I mean, I feel like I know myself better than I ever have, but nice. Like I still don't, you know, like I can look back on things that I did 3 months ago or behavior, you know, like I still get pissed off about shit that's just not worth getting pissed about. Or like somebody comes into the shop and I'm just having a really bad day and I'm just a dick to them. And I'm like, I just fucking lost that guy's everything. Like I'm an asshole to that guy for life now, you know?
I get
it. It's a journey. It's a tough one. It's not an easy thing to like, to, you know, I would imagine there's almost nobody out there that's completely put together.
Yeah.
You know,
no one's sitting at the top of the hill with their legs crossing a stone. Like I got this.
It's really easy to kind of beat yourself up about that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so like, I don't know. I get nervous just knowing like that kind of stuff happens in our head, and like we're on social media and like there's just this overwhelming kind of like amount of people that are trying to do things, and you just see all this weird behavior that just it's kind of concerning that, you know, part of me thinks like we've always been like this, but you know, just more people have voices now. So like, you get all these like negative things that come up from people and name calling and shit. And like, there's this one meme that goes around like that says like, people are too comfortable talking shit to people and then not getting punched in the face or something.
Oh, like that. Which was my first, you know, issue with the social media thing in the first place, because I saw that more and more often, right?
So like what I had said earlier, as far as like I think the solution and the positivity lies in the negativity. So it's kind of like going back like to where we started this whole giving a fuck thing. Like I think there's two things you could probably say. Like one, you can choose to give a fuck about the things that are important. So like choose to give a fuck about what you enjoy doing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And choose to not give a fuck about, you know, some comment from a private account calling you a name or something. Like
it has no weight and no effect on what you're moving forward towards.
No.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
Is it easy to do? It's not, because like even me, like I specifically make sure that I remind myself to not give a shit about that. But I get annoyed when somebody calls me a toy on Instagram.
Sure. I'm
like, what the fuck? And
our egos don't like that.
Yeah. And then,
of course not.
And then 3 seconds later, I'm like, come on.
Yeah. But with some experience, you learn how to like let that, for me in my head, it's like this little monkey on a tricycle with his cymbals smashing, just riding in circles in my head. But as soon as he comes in, I open that fucking door for him to ride right out. And it's only with experience that we get to learn those things. And like you said, from that dark, we can pull out all kinds of, pulling the covers off the shit and then exposing it for what it is, whether it's internal or what we see in social media, is only going to be the a benefit to everything we're trying to do here. And ultimately, again, moving forward and exposing certain things will breed room to build anew, you know? And, you know, one thing that I wanted to add is social media ultimately the way we can go about this, the way we're talking about this now, is creating that awareness, right? For people to embrace and to enhance everything they're trying to do in their lives. You know, they're in proper measure, right? There's like a balance to everything.
Yeah, and I think there's this whole thing like they're taking the likes away or something on Instagram. You'll still be able to see them, but other people can't see them.
I see.
And I kind of think that's a good move because, like, you know, and another, anytime you're talking about social media, like I'm always going to go back to Gary Vee because like he's fucking, this guy knows. If you want to learn about social media, just like fucking study that guy.
Yeah.
He was saying that one of the things that we had talked about a little earlier as far as like catering to the likes. So like if you're not really doing the work that you want to do because you don't think it's going to get as many likes. I was talking to somebody like a really well-known graph writer, and he's like, you know, I can do these and it gets tons of like all kinds of reactions. And even though I've done them a bunch of times, they always get a good response, bunch of comments, bunch of likes, you know, and he said, but when I do some like art shit that I really enjoy doing, I know it's not going to get a good reaction, but I want people to see that shit, you know? Right. So he's kind of like taking a good, you know, and I try to adopt that myself. Like I put shit, I don't think I do it as much as I would like, but like I'll put shit out there and just know that it's going to tank, so to speak, you know, but I want it to be there. Like, and you want it to be part of your portfolio. Like if you look at your social media feed as your portfolio. So you're like, maybe it's going to get 20% the amount of likes that this kind of work would, but at the same time, it's part of my body of work and just, you know, you put it out there. Yeah. And if you're sitting there concerned that somebody's going to go through your feed and go like, oh, look at this post that only got X amount, whatever is a small amount of likes for you. It's different for everybody. But so
amazing point, because I think in a whole, we have lost. I know this is something, again, that I'm learning at this moment in my life. I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm just now understanding the importance of individuality, not just with your mate, not with just your family and your friends, with everybody. And that, if you take away that part where people can't see what kind of traction that picture got, what do you fucking know? Now they have an individual opinion and thought on this piece, and they actually are forced to like retract whatever. They're forced to scorch their own path and their own steps here, and their own opinion and how they see this particular piece. How interesting would that be to, like even if like it wasn't released, the likes or comments for like a week after it's posted, and you just fucking say what you think. You either like it or you don't. You say what you want and don't. And then you go back later and read and kind of see where everybody was really at. That'd be kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
Not that matters as much as just making your own mark, or you're giving your own feed on this situation. Because I remember even doing it myself and get caught in, it's like I get caught in the same thing I try to avoid. I get on there, I see somebody that I respect and what they might have said or not said on something, and it will absolutely, I'll just flip to the next page. I don't want to get involved in that conversation, or just because they said that, if I say this, it looks like I'm agreeing with that. And so it does, it kind of like tears you apart from what you would, for me, what I would have originally said or thought or whatever. So again, I think it's a very positive move. I think it'll force people to gain their individuality again and see it through their own fucking eyes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would even be beneficial if they took likes out altogether, like to where even, because you can still see them. So like people will still be like, oh, well, nobody likes this thing that I did. But if you didn't even know, I mean,
what would the negative side be to that?
Right.
I don't see one.
You would just do whatever you wanted to do. You would put what you liked up there. And that's what I think that's what Gary Vee said. And I can't remember for sure, but he said the people that run Instagram, obviously Facebook, they want people to be on the platform and stay on there. Okay. That's like they're 100% their goal.
Yeah.
Like people on their shit.
Of course.
And so if people are not posting stuff that they want to post because it's not getting enough likes, then they're not going to be on the platform. If they take the likes away, and I might be getting this totally wrong, people are going to post more shit because there's the fear. Like let's say they take away the likes, just like, let's say you can't see my likes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll still see how many people liked it. And maybe, and I'm saying me as anybody, I'm not personally insecure about this stuff.
Yeah.
You'll still see, oh, this got X amount of likes. Maybe nobody likes it. But it's removing that insecurity that everybody else will see that it didn't get as many likes. So nobody will know, people won't know.
I think that, it's funny that we touch on this near the end of this, but I think this could be a whole nother episode as well. Just talking, I could go on about this because think about how powerful this concept really is. Besides finding your own, ultimately finding your own, because it's like you gain a whole nother power, self-worth. You can really like zone in on what it is you want to do and what you like. And so you're still on this platform, you're still networking, you're still showing people what you got, promoting where your show is, whatever, seeing other people's work, but you're not so caught up in what people think about it. You're just moving forward. You're just rocking your shit. You're just getting better. You're just doing whatever you got to do. You're not paying attention to all, because trust me, there's plenty of people out there that are not posting something today because they're afraid of what someone will or won't say.
Oh, dude.
Are not painting something today because they're not going to post something. So they're saying, what's the fucking point? And it's freezing them. It's stopping their growth, their momentum and all that. So that's a brilliant idea. If he takes away the likes, I honestly see nothing wrong with that idea whatsoever. Comments would still be there, right? People still see comments. So in a sense, that is still in that same realm. Like I'd say if you took everything out completely,
fucking take it
all out.
I mean, you
Absolutely
could just have
right.
followers and maybe not even that.
Yes. Come to my show that I promote on here. And it's like, going back to like, are we being fed too much visually? Are our brains just reaching maximum fucking capacity right now? We're just gonna fucking short circuit and just gonna be shit everywhere. What can we bring it back to, like standing in a fucking gallery and staring at a painting for 5 minutes and really absorbing one thing at a time, and why the aesthetics and why the curator does it in such a way where you can really enjoy that one painting and move on to the next and have a discussion with who you're with about what you're seeing and all that. It's like just flip, picture. Are you really enjoying and absorbing and appreciating what work this artist has put in? Not to mention you're so caught up on the likes below and the comments and like all the things going on in the screen. It's crazy.
And you go through, like, I don't know, I can't say you, but I know I'll go through shit.
Yeah.
And I'll see something that I liked. I'll do a quick pinch and zoom. All right.
Right.
And then
move on to the next.
Sometimes I'll save it to look at it. Like if it's a color palette that maybe I want to try, or like, oh, that's a cool arrow. Like maybe I should explore. Like I don't want to sound like I'm biting people, but we get inspiration.
Absolutely.
But
there's just too much though. So you keep moving.
It is. It's too much. And back to the idea of taking away likes. Mm-hmm. And we can take away our own likes. You don't have to like cater to that stuff. That you're well within your own. I'm reading a book right now by Jocko Willink. He's this fucking Navy SEAL dude.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called I think it's called Discipline Equals Freedom or whatever.
Nice.
And he talks about mind control as in you control your own mind. And he's saying like, insecurity doesn't get a vote and fear doesn't get a vote and all this kind of stuff. So like it's a little out there, but like for this topic, but the point is you can take away the likes yourself. Like you can choose to not give a fuck about the likes. It reminds me of when I was a kid and drawing. Mm-hmm. I drew the shit that I wanted to draw and I just wanted to make it look like what I was trying to draw. I had this book of how to draw like fucking cartoon characters, like Bugs Bunny and all this kind of shit. I just really wanted it to look like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why can't we just do art like that? Like, I just really want my piece to look like this.
Right.
And just take that whole idea of what everybody else thinks.
Yeah.
Granted, that's a huge component in graffiti and it always has been. It's just like fucking amplified by social media because of shit like likes and those kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I used to think that we had that the ones coming up today with an iPhone for their second birthday, whatever, we had an advantage to that scope of what they could see, right? But now that you say it like that, I really think we had a serious advantage to just sitting at home with our book. And like watching a freaking Looney Tunes cartoon and being inspired, or a book you got at the drugstore and like rocking that Bugs Bunny and like really getting into that shit and being so proud once you finished. Your shades and your hands and your whatever was just on point. Yeah. And moms or pops are just like, oh yeah, there's Bugs. You're like, yeah,
you're very talented.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, I think, man.
But you're doing it for yourself. I mean,
there you go.
And when I think about the graffiti that I did in the 90s, pre-social media, there was some aspects of, and I kind of already mentioned them, some aspects of like wanting to please what I thought I was supposed to be doing. But like, I did a lot of the things that I wanted to do. Like, I remember seeing some writer. There's like 3 writers that I can think of that did these fucking awesome black and silver, super simple letters. Like they were so simple that was the style that they, you know, it was just like boom.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, and it was part of what you were talking about in the environment, you know, it was like fucking bricks falling off of shit. And it's like bum fucking crap and shit all over the place. Like fucking, and then there's this aggressively simple,
almost
black and silver with a
just
yellow border.
Beautiful.
And, you know, it was those kind of moments where I was like, that's the kind of graffiti I want to do.
Yes.
And it wasn't like, I hope people are going to like this. Right. So like there was like moments, obviously you go back and forth and you're like, I'm going to put this there. I hope people like this, you know, but I can definitely remember a lot of times when I was developing different styles that I wanted to do that was exactly like what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think social media makes it harder, but I keep thinking that the answer is in the problem, you know?
Yeah.
And it's more of people waking up to that, you know? Take the likes away yourself. Like, take them out of your own fucking thought process.
Right.
And put the shit out that you want to put out and have a good time.
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
You know?
I remember probably the most joyful sets I ever did was in those secluded fucking areas, whether it was in my backyard or in a wash in the neighborhood. But the satisfaction of finishing something, an outline with just some drop shadow with a rusty ass can you racked in a garage on the way there or whatever it was, that satisfaction was unmatched.
When it came out the way you wanted it
fucking right. Priceless. A sketch on my binder that I did, I finally pulled off, probably biting or being inspired by the Subway art book. It was like the only thing I had to look at, but like emulating anything even remotely close to that in a place that only me and one friend might see when we skate up to the wash or whatever. That feeling, I can't even think of too many other spots that I caught in public that felt as good as those first moments, you know?
Yeah.
Because we weren't forced onto the stage that so many are now immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Curtains
that makes
drawn.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of thinking back to my early days, like painting spots like that, where I was like, nobody's going to see it. But when you finished it and it was the way you wanted it to come out.
Yeah.
There's very little that's more satisfactory in terms of like fulfilling a goal and looking at it and being like, that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
Like I painted this bird once, and you know, what's crazy is, I learned how to draw this bird from that book that I was telling you about when I was a kid. And, I think I have a picture of it and it still looks pretty dope.
No shit.
It was like 92 or something like that. And I even did like, I did cuts before I knew what cuts were.
Nice.
Because like I drew the wing in white, but the line was so thick. And it was like, you only had testers and New York Fats. Or do we even call them New York Fats then?
Or like glass cleaner caps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I went in and I took the black and I like carved the white away so that it was just this little sliver. And it was just you've probably seen this buzzard. It's just sitting on a branch.
I absolutely
black and white.
know exactly what you're talking about. And it is still dope.
It came out
fresh,
just the way I wanted it to, you know? And I remember looking at the photo for like long periods of times, like the hard copy, just like, fuck, that came out exactly like, it looks like the bird that I wanted to paint, you know?
And here's another quality that we had back then was we weren't so pressed on fucking time. We were patient with what we were doing. We wanted it to be right. Wanted to look just so. We weren't so consumed by my post needs to be up by 5 o'clock today.
Oh yeah.
I got to keep up with everybody else's. Yeah.
Followers are active.
Exactly. So there's that whole element to it too.
Yeah.
You know, I remember going back to wash 3-4 fucking times so that shit was right. No sweat. Like whatever.
God, I've done that too. It's crazy. Like
trying to force yourself to finish by a certain time slot.
Well, not so much that, but like I just remember there was like a time when I was painting. It was probably like maybe like 5 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember I would go and I'd paint, and I always paint relatively fast. Like I don't really like to.
Yeah.
3 hours, and I'm like, dude, just fucking kill me. I'm done.
Get me home already.
Yeah, like an hour and a half is kind of my sweet spot, you know.
Nice.
And but that's a sidebar.
That's good.
But what I would do, and I would do this consistently, I would paint, and then I would get back to my car, and I would adjust the flick on my fucking Photoshop iPhone thing and sharpen it up and do all this shit. And I'd post it, and then I'd drive home, and then when I got home, I would check to see how it would do.
Right.
And it was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? You know what I mean? You just had a good time with a bunch of your friends.
Right.
Like, why am I sitting in the car when they're still painting?
Yeah.
And I'm putting this shit on Instagram.
Right.
And then I'm wondering.
Yeah.
What it's
Priorities are just, they become skewed. And I think it's just what you said. It's too much of all the things that get us out of what the actual joy of this entire situation really was.
Yeah.
There's too many things pulling me out that
It sucks you away from it.
unnecessary roughness.
Well, shit.
Yeah, man. We could keep on, but that was a good arena of points and places to fly off of next time. We definitely want, more than anything, people that, first of all, understood a fucking single word I said, but like got something of value out of this conversation, which I know there was a lot of good points we made, to share that with somebody else next to them, or to turn them on to hearing this at some point, and how important that is to just spread this fire,
Yeah. Do what you like to do. Have a good time.
Yeah.
Phase the likes out.
That's
on
right.
your own.
Yes.
You don't have to wait for Instagram.
It's a beautiful thing.
So let's just wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
We have a website, graffitimachine.com. You can
Nice.
see clips of the show. If you want to just take little bits and pieces, we're going to put highlights on there. We'll probably have show notes, probably have links on some episodes that are relevant. You can find us on social media with @Machine Studio on Instagram. You want to shout out your own Instagram?
Yeah, you can find me, if you are so inclined, at Sir Cub. I would appreciate your follow as well. That'd be cool.
And you can find me at Bus166 on Instagram.
Nice.
And I guess that's it.
Beautiful.
Until next time. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you guys.